Hello and welcome back to the GMP Cocktail Lounge. It's the weekend, you know what that means, another video for you. So today we're going to be talking about mojitos. Very popular drink. We've had a couple of people request those. And by the way, keep the requests coming. We have on tap for some of our future videos planned, the Mai Tai, and also something with black fig vodka, which is really delicious and not a lot of people know about it. And then we have a couple other ideas, but keep the requests coming because we love doing videos for drinks that you all want to hear about. And sometimes they're drinks that we maybe don't know a lot about, and so I get to go off and research them and learn about them. And so one of the things, talking about going off and researching, when I looked into the mojito, I mean, been drinking them for years. They're lovely, they're delicious, and they're awesome in hot weather, but I really didn't know a lot about the history of the drink. So, I didn't have any idea where they came from, but I know some people thought that they would come from Mexico. And I can understand why somebody might think that, because they do come from a Spanish-speaking country. But it's not Mexico, it's Cuba, or Cuba. So mojito comes from Cuba, and as far as the origin of the mojito, that's all anyone can really agree on, because there's a lot of different theories. I'm going to tell you about a couple of them, the sort of more popular or more mainstream ones. So the first one, for those of you who are fans of Ernest Hemingway, you may already know this. So Ernest Hemingway, the famous writer, he went to Cuba in the late 1940s, and he lived there for a while. And there was a bar in Havana that he was very fond of. He was there all the time. He was basically like a regular fixture of the bar. Bodeguita del Medio. My Spanish is horrible, so please forgive me. Anyway, he was there all the time, and he supposedly wrote on the wall, my mojito in La Bodeguita, my daiquiri in El Floridita. In other words, his daiquiri in Florida and his mojito in Cuba. But Hemingway scholars don't think that this is actually him that wrote this, because while it is well known that he really liked daiquiris, mojitos never show up in his works. He didn't really talk about them, so it's a little dubious that he really liked them that much that he'd write that on the wall and then not talk about them ever again. So that's probably not true. What's likely more true is a theory that the mojito comes from the original sugarcane rum that developed in Cuba in the 16th century. Now, African slaves that worked the sugarcane fields often would take the sugarcane and use it to distill their own version of a rum. It was a very rough rum, not smooth at all, and so to temper the taste of the rum, they would have to combine it with other things. So what did they have on hand? They had limes on hand, they had extra sugar as well, so they would combine those with the rum to basically make something that they could drink large quantities of to get through the day. So that's one theory, and that seems to hold a little bit of water. And there's another theory that's kind of related, that in the 16th century, when Sir Francis Drake went to Cuba, he went to Havana in particular with the idea of, he was doing a service, he was trying to free Havana of its gold. Because they didn't really need all the gold anyways. But he wasn't successful. And in fact, a bunch of his crew ended up developing scurvy. So as they were sitting on their boat sick, a party went ashore and they went off and they found some equivalent of a Cuban witch doctor, and they got this cure. Now the cure turned out to be essentially a mojito. And so they brought the cure back to the ship, they learned how to make it, and the sailors were cured of the scurvy. Now we know today that the reason they were cured of the scurvy is because they were drinking the lime juice that was in the drink. Of course, so all they had to do was really go get the limes, but, good for all of us, I guess, that they didn't, because maybe that's part of why the drink became so popular. Whatever the reason, in the 16th century, there was actually a drink in Cuba called El Drac, which supposedly is named after Drake. And so that's why some people think that maybe there's some truth to that story. And then we step forward a little bit to Prohibition, and there's a theory that says that there was some sort of a drink in Cuba, but during Prohibition, a lot of people who had some means left the U.S. because they couldn't drink in the States. They went to Cuba, which is just offshore, and they went there and they had their alcohol and their fun there. And that while there, the drink kind of started with a local drink that kind of evolved and turned into the drink that we kind of have today. Whether that's true or not, there's no doubt that Prohibition probably helped increase the popularity of the drink. And in fact, so like some of the other drinks we've talked about, it popularity just grows and grows and grows over time, to the point that in 2016, the mojito was actually the most popular drink in both France and the UK. So last week we did the porn star martini, and we talked about how in 2018 that was the most popular in the UK, or the most ordered in bars, pubs, and restaurants. In 2016, it was the mojito. So What is a mojito though? For those of you that don't know mojito, what's it, right? So the base spirit is rum. And generally it's a clear rum, and that's the preferred rum, but you can also mix it up and use a dark rum or a spiced rum. It's kind of one of these drinks, there isn't a set, it has to be done exactly this way. It's more of a base template and you can change it up however you like. So it's rum, sugar, lime, and then either water or soda water or seltzer water to kind of top it off. So I'm going to actually make two versions of the mojito today, and I'm going to make it two different ways. Now this is another thing with the mojito, unlike some other drinks, you can make it a couple of different ways. So we're going to make two today. We're going to make a regular mojito first, and then we're going to make a coconut mojito. I'll talk a little bit about the differences between them and kind of some other ideas and some other things as we go along. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so usually you want to use a Collins or a a tall, thin kind of glass. Unfortunately, of all the glassware that we have here at G&P Cocktail Lounge, we don't use that one at all practically, so we don't really have those on hand. So I'm substituting a sort of small pint glass for that, but I think it'll work for this. All right, so the first thing is we're going to kind of work backwards on this one. We're going to take mint. This is not fresh mint. This is from the supermarket. Ideally, if you can, fresh mint is going to be the best thing. And we're going to aim for, we want to do probably at least between 6 to 8 leaves. I'm actually going to put a little bit more than that in here. Now you can, if you want, while you're doing this, some people like to slap the mint. So you can kind of do like this. You can also put it in your palm and give it a slap like that. Either way, the reason you do that is the force of that opens up the surface of the mint and lets the oils come out a little bit and increases the flavor. However, once I put a couple of ingredients in here, you're going to see I'm going to muddle this. So it's not as important to do that in this case. That'll be nice and minty. All right, so then next up, we're going to put some sugar in. And I want to make a comment about the sugar. So, of course, back in the day, it was cane sugar. Was the sugar that was used when the mojito was developed. And you can use that. It's a bit rough and gritty if you use that. What actually is the best thing to use, the label's kind of off on this, but it's super fine sugar. And it's basically, it's usually used in baking, but it's a really fine sugar, almost like a powdered sugar. And it's so fine that it dissolves well, especially in cold. So those of you that have done baking or worked with sugars, generally speaking, sugar doesn't dissolve that well in cold unless you stir it up quite a bit. So using this ultra fine helps it dissolve a bit better without having to really go to town on it. So we're going to do 2 bar spoons, or really probably maybe 2 teaspoons, I'd say probably, of sugar. We're going to add the juice from 1 whole fresh squeezed lime. We're actually going to save that half of the lime. We'll use that later. All right, so now we're going to take our muddler, and by the way, you can use almost anything, anything to muddle that's kind of got a blunt end to it. And all you do is you just put that in, you kind of just gently press and kind of twist a little bit, but not a full twist. And the reason for that is you don't want to, when it comes to mint, and whenever you muddle any herb, you really have to be a little careful, because you don't want to rip it up. If you tear up the herb, it's going to wind up getting in your drink, in your teeth, it's going to make a mess, and it's not particularly good. All you want to do is really put enough stress on the mint so that, again, it releases the oils, and then so the flavor gets into the drink. Okay. Like that. Okay. So next up, we're going to add our rum. Now I'm using Flor de Caña. This is a decent quality white rum. As I mentioned, you can use a spiced rum or a dark rum. And I'm going to do, for the drink that I'm doing here, I'm doing 4 ounces. But as I've talked about in the past, you can always pare down, because our drinks at G&P tend to be on the strong side. But you could do half. You could do 2 ounces, of the rum, in which case you would only do half of the lime and only 1 spoonful of the sugar. All right. So I'm just going to give that a shake, a bit of stir rather. Add some ice. Basically what you want to do here is you want to fill up the glass all the way up to ice. And you'll see there's some room left over at the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill that room at the top with some soda water. Stir. Now we're going to use the half of the lime that we saved. We're going to just drop that right in there. And we're going to put a little mint in as well as a garnish. And there you have a regular basic daiquiri. Basic mojito. All right, so we're going to put that aside. Now we're going to do the coconut. Now the coconut I'm going to use the shaker for, but it's basically a lot of it's the same thing. You put in some mint, and we do our lime. Sugar. And then for this one, rather than using the Flor del Cana rum, we're actually going to use, I'm using Bacardi coconut rum, but you can use any decent coconut rum. As you'll see in a minute, it's not just this though. We got 4 ounces of this. And then to up the coconut flavor a little bit without adding a whole lot more alcohol, I'm going to actually put in an ounce of Malibu. The Malibu is a coconut rum, but unlike the Bacardi coconut rum, Malibu is about half the alcohol. So again, so you could substitute, a regular sort of coconut rum. You could use the Malibu instead and be a bit alcoholic with the same volume of liquid. I'm going to add my ice. And give that a good shake. Take our glass, we're going to add ice, some more ice to it. Strain, shaken. Again, there's just a little bit of room at the top there, so we're just going to put a little soda water in. Give that a turn. Now this one, instead of garnishing with the spent shell, I'm going to actually use a lime wheel. And there you have coconut mojito. There you go, but the regular and the coconut mojito, they look exactly the same, but they certainly taste different. You can also, when it comes to doing the mojitos, so you can mix it up with any fruit that you want. You can raspberries, strawberries, peaches. I mean, basically any fruit works well with this sort of base recipe. You can also add some bitters in if you want to kind of tweak the flavor a little bit. So like with the coconut, cucumbers bitters would work well. Moroccan bitters work well. I tried that a little bit earlier. That's a good taste mix. Really, whatever you like. You really can do a lot with a mojito. It's a very versatile kind of drink. So, and it's also a good drink for the summer, which is trying to arrive, at least here in New England, but it's not here yet. So hopefully it'll be here soon enough, because as we're getting close to June, it's time for summer. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed, and until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy. Cheers.